Hello, welcome back. This is Module 2, Video 4. How did you get on the last video? I hope you did the exercise and you've got some idea of which areas in your life you'd like to delegate. Before I tackled perfectionism, one of the things I really struggled with was needing approval from other people. I was really worried if I felt that they didn't approve of me or I had somehow disappointed them. One example was I remember I used to work in an advertising agency and we went in to do a pitch for a client. I felt that the pitch went really well and the clients were really happy, but my director was annoyed because we hadn't followed the presentation process that we'd previously agreed. So following that experience, even though the pitch was actually a success and we got the job, I saw the presentation as a failure because I had let him down. Does that ring true for you? At that time, I should have realised that I was working for a perfectionist too, but I didn't. So let's have a think about some of the following aspects of being a perfectionist and see whether any of these are things that you can relate to. So, do you find you spend a lot of time trying to please other people? Is that something that you do? Do you depend on others for their feedback to make you feel worthwhile? So when you do something, it only feels really good to you once you know that somebody else approves of it. How about if someone is upset with you or disapproves of something that you do you feel anxious and do you worry about it a lot? That was a real stinger for me. If somebody was upset with me, I could worry over that for ages and ages. And even now, I can remember things that I did back when I was probably my daughter's age, about 14 or 13, things that I did to friends in school that I'm still ashamed by, which really, you need to move on from. The problem is, these are really strong signals that perfectionism is actually covering up your need for approval from others. So the perfectionism is just one way of trying to justify the fact that you don't have enough self-esteem. But it's okay. Everyone has their own issues. And the thing is that when you rely on other people to give you that approval, you're not taking into account that other people with their own issues, they might not approve of you for reasons that are nothing to do with you. One thing to think about could be, I know sometimes when my husband, when he used to work out of the home, when he would come home, he would be in a bad mood. And I would automatically think that that was something that I had done, even though he'd only walked in the door maybe half a minute before. It was because my perfectionism led me to need approval from him. It meant that anything that he did, I automatically thought might have been my fault. And I can tell you, life is much easier now that I don't think that, and now that I'm quite happy to stand up for myself. Being super vigilant over other people and their attitudes and what's happening and how they are reacting to you, though, is really, really tiring. I'm pretty sure that you've come across that. So another example is I went along to a breastfeeding support clinic. And this was when I was really struggling breastfeeding Katie. I had to give her a bottle beforehand. Why was that? Because I was having such trouble breastfeeding and I didn't want to have to breastfeed her in the support group and admit that I was having problems. And yet this was the one area where I should have been able to tell people I was having problems and get the help that I needed. So what is your perfectionism trying to cover up for you? And what do you think that people might disapprove of you for? So for me, it was about the fact that people would think that I wasn't a good mum because I couldn't breastfeed Katie because it didn't come naturally. As a perfectionist, you have to remember that you have lots of really fantastic qualities, and I know that. Because as a perfectionist, you're typically a high achiever, you're highly attuned to other people's emotions, you've got to be able to get their approval. And probably you're quite humble too. You don't give yourself the credit for all the fantastic things that you do. But no matter what that is, you have some bullshit excuses, we're going to call them, that you are using to beat yourself up with. So again, for me, not being able to breastfeed Katie, the bullshit excuse was that I wasn't a good enough mother. And so I had to come across as perfect so that people wouldn't see that. So what we need to do is find ways that you can get the approval you need from yourself and not from other people. So this then is the exercise that I want you to do. I want you to go to your workbook and I want you to read through the exercise and think about all of the excuses you have, all of those bullshit excuses, and don't worry about them because we do all have them. And if you want to, you can come to the Facebook group after and share some of those with us. But I want to think about what you're using your perfectionism to cover up for. Don't worry about it, just have fun, see if you can get out as many as you can, and I'll see you in the next module.